A thumbnail.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VHS Club. We are excited to be here tonight to talk about The Craft. Have you seen it? Let us know in the chat. I, as usual, thought I had seen it, and I had not. So, hey George, how's it going?
George is in our live studio audience. Thanks, George, for joining in.
Yeah.
So I found this great review from Roger Ebert of the infamous Siskel and Ebert reviews back in the
90s.
Up until the 90s.
Yeah, up until the 90s.
So there are these great movie reviewers, or not. I don't know if they were great, but they were definitely
iconic movie reviewers. Yeah.
They're an iconic duo, and this is just Ebert, one of the reviewers, and he left what was considered at the time a scathing review of this movie. But having reread it today, I'm like, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah,
and not scathing per se.
Exactly. We felt we needed to start with reading it, and we will drop this. It's not currently in the show notes or the description, but we will drop the link in so you can read the full review. And we absolutely give credit to Ebert for this. But it was too good to not read.
Good review.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what gets me is because usually their reviews are very more like, this movie invokes this and tells us about that, and it deserves credit for this and that. So, but let me get into this review for The Craft. It says, in the opening scenes of The Craft, a teenage girl and her family move into a vast, crumbling old mansion overgrown with vines and apparently set within decaying wetlands. Soon, an ominous man arrives at the door holding a snake. Soon he leaves. The teenager named Sarah, played by Robin Tunney, decides to go to school even though she doesn't have her school uniform yet. Her stepmother drops her off at a Catholic high school in a posh section of Los Angeles. Where exactly in Los Angeles are there Gothic mansions in a bayou country? Even the La Brea tar pits are landscaped. Never mind. The mansion is essentially making a guest appearance as atmosphere. It establishes a pattern. Many of the scenes of this movie have no attention span, do not remember any of the other scenes, and exist only within their own terms. In the high school, we meet three other teenage girls: Nancy, played by Fairuza Balk; Bonnie, Neve Campbell; and Rochelle, Rachel True. They are witches. The fourth is arriving, Nancy intuits. I thought the witches came in threes, but no. You need one for each of the 4 points of the compass. It continues, but that's essentially the premise of the movie. What I love is that he can't get over the fact that there are geographic inaccuracies in the movies. There are mythical inaccuracies in the movies. That there are parenting inaccuracies in the movie. Like, he's just like, what? It does, and he does say, I thought this movie would be more about the teenage social structure in high school.
Same.
And
Ebert,
it just didn't quite get there.
Yeah.
And yes, Katie and I agree. We were like, this could have been a really interesting way to say, like, hey, the misfits and the outcasts of the social structure of high school are, are witches. But really, the movie just went from, like, the Breakfast Club to just straight on witchcraft, and
Yeah.
not even like necessarily Wiccan witchcraft, which it does kind of explain
Has
some
elements
Wiccan,
of,
but goes a
yeah.
little more magic than Wiccan. It's pretty wild. So,
It's a wild ride. And I do
yeah.
I I feel like there's not much of a plot to this movie. Like it feels like it's trying to find a plot and like gets close to a plot, but it isn't really. And I agree with what you just said. I feel like initially maybe when they were writing it or thinking through the concept of this movie, it was like how can we view like womanhood and coming of age and teenage girls and sexuality through the lens of witchcraft in this kind of like cool, funky, like of the time teen movie.
Yeah.
And they just didn't
Which I'm
get
like,
there.
that seems like such a good idea. Like,
Yeah.
I'm all in.
Yeah. But at the same time, this movie performed really well, is a cult classic, and has some like really iconic moments in it. And the four
Oh, yeah.
actresses that play the four witches, the
Are
four sides of the comments,
phenomenal.
are amazing. And like their
Yeah.
costuming and their acting and their characters are interesting, but there's not really like much of a plot around it. Like sort of,
I
but
mean,
like not quite. It doesn't quite
the
get there.
plot is basically like fuck around and find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pardon my French, but like, so these four sort of outcast misfits, there's like so it seems that they're at a rather posh
Catholic school. Yeah.
Catholic school. So like they wear uniforms. I say that because I went to Catholic school. We didn't have uniforms. We weren't fancy. We were a public school. But like, it seems like a fancy schmancy private school in LA. So they have uniforms. There's Catholic symbolism everywhere. There's a nun in one scene, but like
They
not all
they
of
go
the
to
teachers
like
are nuns.
to mass during church, like not during church. They go to
Yeah,
mass during school. Yeah.
which is like a great, like, it could be a great dichotomy between witchcraft and
Yeah.
our like overall North American faith, so it presents this opportunity, this environment to have this wonderful contrast, but we don't go there. So
No.
I have to say the costuming was spot on.
Yeah.
Several of the girls wore overalls in the movie, and I was like, God, overalls were so epic. I miss them so much.
I just bought another pair of overalls because I'm just all in. I'm all in on
like,
living that vibe.
I could not get overalls on my body anymore. I don't think. I haven't tried.
The ones that fit me now are referred to as gardening overalls, and I'm okay with it. I'm like, sure, I'm
whatever.
gardening.
If the kids are bringing back overalls,
Yep.
yeah, I'm here for it, because
Yep.
it was so iconic. You could wear the cute little like super girly shirt under these really genderless overalls,
Yeah.
which had such freedom.
Yeah.
I loved that. The costuming was spot on for the era, which was what, early 90s, 93, 94 this movie came out?
96.
96. Not at all correct, Natalie.
Yeah.
96.
No, you're good.
This movie
immediately follows Empire Records.
Yes. Oh,
which, yeah. So it immediately follows Empire Records. And one of my favorite fun facts about this movie is that intentionally the costuming, the four main characters, the four witches, their skirts, their Catholic school skirts, get shorter the more into witchcraft they get, which I was kind of
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
As the observant one, I didn't notice that.
No,
at all.
I didn't. I didn't. To be clear, I didn't notice it, but I did research it afterwards, and that is one of the facts. I will say I did notice that they are dressed more sensually or sexually as the movie progresses. than they are at the beginning. Like they're kind of
I thought
like,
they were just dressed more confidently because they were
yeah,
more
okay,
comfortable in
you
their
could take it that
bodies.
way. You could take it that way.
But
Yeah.
that's just as a woman and being an insecure girl in high school. I'm like, they just got more confident and
Yeah.
comfortable
I
with
mean, both.
themselves.
Like, I think that probably the costuming is the only part of the movie that actually like carries the storyline through correctly. Like it does like feed into the whole like what it was supposed to be, which is this like
Yeah.
coming of age, talking about like women gaining confidence, what it's like to be in like a friend group, what it's like to, to try to find your confidence in yourself. And like I think like it tried and it came close to pulling that off, but certainly not to the level of a lot of other movies of its time.
I
Like,
have to say, this movie, though, so in rewatching it, Katie and I were saying that we liked the movie. It was not successful in its story or its plot. It kind of fell apart in the end. It felt like it was almost two different types of movies. Like the
yeah,
beginning, it seemed like a very much a high school movie. It
yeah,
seemed like an updated Breakfast Club where you're going to have these different types of girls that come together, and through witchcraft we're going to find themselves and
yeah,
become powerful to themselves. But at the end of the movie, it's really just all about witchcraft and magic and
yeah.
how it went very wrong, and then there was a power grab, and just like how magic needs to be respected, and how just even respect for human life in general, like for public health safety, like how you need to respect everybody equally.
Yeah.
um so it kind of became almost two different movies, beginning and end.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, it is fascinating because apparently so a couple of things from it. One was I feel like I agree. I feel like they leaned really hard into the whole witchcraft thing, which actually earned them
which is great.
initially the movie was rated PG-13, and because of how like dark and witchcraft focused it was, it actually the ratings board actually bumped it to an R rating because they just were like, nah, witchcraft R.
Wait, this
Yeah.
movie had an R rating?
This movie had an R rating. This
For,
movie had an
because
R
of
rating because of witchcraft.
in
And then
America.
in
In
America,
America, it had an R rating.
yep,
Okay.
because of witchcraft. And then yep,
Sorry.
100%.
I'm like, there's nothing R rated in this movie. There are two kind of rapey scenes, which we can talk about after, but I'm
Yeah.
like, but they're not really like it's again, it's more to demonstrate like a misuse of power,
Yeah, powers. Yeah.
like a power
A
dynamic
power
issue.
dynamic, yeah.
But it's not like there's very little like physical violence. There's no
Well,
guns.
no. And then
And
I
there's
think
not really any overt sexuality
nope. I
in
think
this
the
movie that
I
would
think it
earn it
was
an R
just
rating.
I think there's something that like especially in America, but there's something that just sort of like is dangerous and dark about the world of witchcraft. And then I will say misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding
Absolutely. I will
the
say
world.
that the because of that is probably one of the reasons why this movie performed as well as it did, was this like taboo, I shouldn't really
Yes.
be seeing this kind of concept. But it resulted in actually refilming the final scene, the final kind of like fight scene between
Oh.
the main two witches. So they got a much larger budget as a result of it. So they actually reshot a lot of the final scenes, and they reshot it to be like much more extreme than what they had initially thought because they had extra budget. So
Oh.
so part of it, I guess in like, in their defense, a lot of it was like, oh well, we have this extra money to spend, so we can put more into this like really epic fight scene, which I actually think took away from the movie.
It did.
But I
actually
get
got
why
bored
they
during
did
it.
it. Yeah.
In my notes, I was like, this is supposed to be the epic like battle, but it's boring because it doesn't actually serve the plot.
Well,
It's like, yeah, we know that Nancy thought she was the strongest. She thought she was a leader, but Sarah's the natural, which she is naturally
yeah.
stronger. And therefore Nancy's going to have jealousy issues, and the power dynamic of their coven, their circle, was shifting, and it upset Nancy, and she didn't have the maturity, because she's a teenager,
Yeah.
to understand what was happening and how to protect their circle. And so that it obviously there was, a very teenage blow up about it. And I thought that that was, yes, that's correct and that's typical. But like this whole battle scene, I was like, okay, I'm bored, because it took away from the point,
You
from
know,
what could have been a point for the movie.
yeah. It dragged on, and it was
It
kind of
did.
disappointing how quickly the other two girls just disappear from it. Like it yeah, we're just like, we're gonna give those guys the day off. Like they were just like gone out of, like, they left almost immediately. And they
Yeah.
have this like kind of like weird thing at the very end where they come back and are like, oh, now we can be friends again because we don't really have any powers anymore. And you're like, all right, I don't like it. It
To me, I felt
was a
like it
weird
was they were
conclusion.
checking in. I
Yeah.
felt like the
Oh
two
yeah, no,
other
100%.
witches
They were
were just sort of
100% checking in, but it was like a
just like,
weird.
does she still have powers? Because
Yeah.
we don't.
Yeah.
And if she does, maybe we can get in on it. But then Sarah threatened them and was like, no, you're going to stay away from me. And Nancy's locked up in a insane asylum now because she's crazy, because I
Yeah.
broke her. So it definitely, yeah. One thing I thought was, I kept thinking, and I don't know a lot about witches and magic, but I'm like, I feel like to find a circle and to bind a circle, like a coven
Yeah.
of witches, and this is just from enjoying witchy movies and TV shows.
Any
And
Wiccans watching, please let
yeah,
us
you
know if
can
we
you can
are.
specify this for me, like explain it to me. But I feel like because they bound their circle, they found their coven, their circle, to break it up as they had to do at the end of the movie, because the three became really power hungry, and not Robin, Sarah, the natural witch, was like, no, this is really bad, and we're hurting people and harming people, and people actually died. She's like, we need to end this. And to break the circle, I feel like would have such long-term impact, like lifelong impact for these witches and their ancestors. And that's just the perspective I have of witchcraft. But
Yeah,
again, like the movie didn't really support anything, either witchcraft or teens. Like
that is
it
a
didn't
really
support a story.
it's a really good point, because so one thing that is, to at least to my knowledge, and again, correct me if you are a practicing Wiccan and you are
Please.
watching or listening to this later, but in my few years of living in Salem and walking around and just being kind of among a lot of Wiccans, my understanding is that the line of the conversation within this movie that is accurate is this understanding of like, Wiccans don't actually ever put curses, quote unquote, on anyone else, because they strongly believe that whatever they send out, they get back even greater, right? Which they say in this movie, like, what you've put out, you're gonna get back threefold. I don't know if it's threefold in real life, but whatever you're gonna put out, you're gonna get back greater. Which is why
Three
they
is a
only put
common
out.
symbol in mythology, so I
Yeah,
feel like three is
it's probably accurate, right?
Yeah.
But what's weird about it is that they didn't then follow any of that up, right? So you have you have the four witches, right? So Sarah's character puts a love spell on this boy that she's in love with, right? And he does get more extreme. So I guess that like maybe makes sense for it being
Love
greater,
spells
right?
always go wrong. I don't
But
know
like
much about it, but I
didn't
know love
feel
spells go wrong.
it didn't feel like threefold coming back. That was probably the best instance of it. And then you have Nancy, who like basically ends up killing her stepfather, like through her spell, right? But then
Because
so
he
I
was
kept
abusive.
yeah, because he was, which fine, but like I just kept
Yeah.
waiting for like the result of it once the like actual practicing
It
witch
didn't
within the
seem
movie.
like something was coming back at
It
them
didn't
necessarily.
feel like, I felt like she was going to, like, so Nancy's character,
She went crazy.
she goes crazy, but like what's weird about it is that like I really felt like I was expecting Nancy's family to like lose all of their money, or for her, like her mother to be like killed in some act. Like I felt like it was like, okay, well she's gonna get threefold back, and she legit killed someone in this spell. So like I figured like she was gonna lose everything, and she doesn't. Like she goes crazy at the end, but really only because she's like caught in this thing. Like not really. Like she's
Only
like,
because Sarah puts her back in her place.
yeah. And then
not
you
because
have
the magic came back at her threefold.
and then you have the other two,
And I
and
feel
like,
terrible, like Bonnie. Bonnie
yeah,
didn't actually her wish, her spell was, so she seemed to have been in the past at some point in her life burnt horribly in some kind of
yeah,
fire.
yeah.
So she had all this scarring on her back. Um and she wishes for it to go away, and it
Yeah.
does. I'm like, but her spell doesn't go out and it doesn't affect anybody, doesn't harm anybody. So what is she supposed to get back threefold?
But
She
she,
doesn't get anything back threefold, which I feel is correct because she didn't, her spell didn't take from anybody else. It
yeah.
didn't
And
affect
she doesn't.
anybody
Like
else.
she stays the same, which that one
Yeah.
I was fine with.
She
And then
becomes
you have
she becomes a
Rish-
bit narcissistic in her beauty,
yeah,
but I mean she's also Neve Campbell, so
yeah. And
I
then you
get
have but
it.
then you have Rochelle's character who, like, and again, like, these things are like, I guess, quote unquote, not justified, but you're like, okay, I understand why. Like, she's dealing with this like
Well,
very, very racist woman. So
yeah.
she does this
Horrible, like
horribly,
shockingly.
shockingly
I
racist. Yeah, like
I
I
was
was like,
like,
this is the
she's like
90s.
so, like this high school kid, which was Christine Taylor, by
I
the way,
know.
who I'm
You're
like
like,
always plays like the
you're like,
sweetheart.
really? Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Christine Taylor? And but she played such a horrendously, openly racist,
Yeah, she's horrible in this.
Aryan race looking person that I
Yep.
was like, whoa. And like I felt it was rather extreme. And apparently that was actually written into the
Yeah.
script after they cast
A black
what's her
actress.
name? Yeah, her name's what, Robin True? No, Rachel True.
Rachel True, yeah.
And they, so they added it, which I'm glad that they did, because I'm like, that's very much
It felt like they went a little,
a
not that they went a little
topic.
far with it, but I felt like they could have done it better. Like, again, it aired on the, not
Well,
campy,
they
but it
made
was
her
like,
seem like such a bad guy for being mad at this, like, obviously, like Aryan kind of racist woman.
yeah.
I don't feel, and I mean, like, maybe that's just my perspective, but I was like, I'm like, having this horrible Aryan, like, racist hair fallout, is that really that bad? Did you?
Yeah, I
Did she
know. I
not
was like
fully
sort of
deserve it?
justified, but then like,
Like,
but then
fully
again, I
justified.
sort of
Ugh.
felt like I guess what I wanted the plot of this movie to be is that, like,
Yes.
I wanted for them to, like, form this coven and have these like really strong friendships, and then for them to realize that how powerful they were, and for them to take advantage of it. But then I wanted the result of it to be threefold back at them. Like, I wanted them to do like these things and then have these like really real world responses, and for them to have to deal with that and solve
Which I
that.
feel like Sarah's character was the only one that actually got back.
Yeah.
So she did this love spell on this guy that she, like, he's like the jock, the hot guy
popular
in high
kid, yeah,
school,
yeah.
the popular guy. And he showed interest in her, and then when she didn't put out on their first
I know, yeah.
hangout, not even a date.
Not even a
Their
date,
first,
yeah.
Not even a date. They were hanging out on the roof of a building with other people, and she didn't put out, so he told the whole high school that he slept with her, but she was a terrible lay, which I'm like, anyway, so she took it very badly, so she put this love spell on him to make him obsessed with her.
Yeah.
Even though she didn't genuinely like him.
Yeah.
Especially after that. And then he was so obsessed with her that at one point when she finally agrees to go out with him because he won't stop hounding her. So at first it's fun because she can make him carry her books and carry her friends' books, and
the spell works. It's like
him,
the excitement over the fact that, because she's never really played with magic at all. So it's like, it's this idea of like, oh,
she didn't
it worked.
really know anything
like,
about it.
Yeah.
So she feels this power.
She feels powerful. Yeah.
And she feels good because she's getting all this affirmation and this affection from him, even though it's a construct that she made. But then it goes too far when she does agree to go out with him, and then he tries to rape her, which is terrible. But his obsession is so great that he is manipulated and forced into this situation. So that makes that dynamic, or that that scene is so complicated because he's doing this horrible, he's trying to do this horrible thing to her,
yeah,
but only because
Yeah.
she's made
Because
him
because she's
do
put him in
that.
that position. It is a weird, it's a little
Which
it's a little bit of
incidentally
a mind game, yeah.
he does kind of maybe technically or almost gets raped earlier in this movie, because Nancy's character
Yeah.
decides to put a glamour on herself to get with him
Yeah.
at a house party, and she says she's going to do it to get back at him for treating Sarah badly.
Yeah, but she's
But
really
what
dealing with her
actually
own
happens
stuff.
is
Yeah.
we find out he rejected her.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like an ex-girlfriend or an ex-lay or whatever. And she seems very, very bitter about it. So we find out that Nancy actually has this jealousy issue with Sarah to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
So not only like she didn't want this fourth to close the circle because she was the most powerful, and then she didn't want, like, she didn't like that Sarah was so kind and so nice that everybody just naturally inclined to be friends with her. She didn't like that this guy hit on her. So then when this guy treated Sarah as badly as he treated Nancy, she's like, oh, I'll go get revenge. But she uses Sarah's image to essentially seduce him, knowing that the love spell was on him. So she essentially attempts to rape him as well. Like, this poor guy. And then he dies. And then he dies because she throws him off, like, the second or third story of a building. Like, I felt so bad. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to feel bad for a rapey douchebag, but also I feel really bad for him.
Yeah,
like,
it is weird, like, because everything you just said, like, I feel like his character, and really that storyline, not the last bit, but like his kind of, his blowing her off and embarrassing Sarah's character, and like and it all of that,
and having
like,
already done that to Nancy
the first
well.
half of the movie feels very, like, the characters are very realistic to at least my high school experience. Like, it feels
100%.
everything and everything that's happening in that high school, you're like, oh yeah, like, I know people that happened to, or I, like, had people say things like that to me. Like, it feels, the characters feel very believable.
I know the body conscious girl. I know the girl that faced racism. I know the nerdy girl.
But then
I
it
know
feels
the new
like
girl. I know the
like
stoner outcast. Like,
exactly.
those...
Exactly. But then it takes that, and it, like, and I said this to you before we jumped onto the podcast, but I feel like it takes that, and you're right. I think Sarah's storyline is probably the only one where it stays believable. Like, whereas everyone else's storyline, and especially Nancy, it's like it goes into this, like, almost like caricature of itself, where it's so extreme and against the, like, believability of Sarah. It just puts you in this, like, weird place where, like, I was watching it and I kept having this, like, inner battle with myself where I was like, I don't like watching Nancy, even though I know she's a great actress. And, like, I know she's, like, beautiful in real life, and, like, she looks the part, but she was, for me, painful to watch because she was playing, like, almost like a caricature of the character. Like, she was evil, like, all in evil, crazy. Evil. Yeah.
I was,
but no one else was, so I was just like, this is, like, awful to watch.
Two things. Ebert did say that the acting in this was beyond expectation, and that it was actually such a stellar quality of acting.
I don't disagree.
On the four girls' parts, like, the acting was above and beyond what this movie called for, which I think lends to the awkwardness of the overall movie. It's because they're better than the edit that we got.
Yes.
And then also for Fairuza Balk, I feel like she was playing the character, like, to the nth degree. Like, she did so good. She was all in, And it's very much reminds me of Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator, where he was so good in it that literally people still walk up to him nowadays to tell him how much they hate him. Like, and I feel like she did that in this movie, where she played this evil so well, and also not just evil, but this teenage insecurity. Like, she played that so complexity so well that she is hard to look at, like you said, and
Yeah.
she's despicable. And it just doesn't fit with the overall
It doesn't
result
fit.
of the
Yeah. It
movie.
doesn't fit with
It's so
this.
bad.
It doesn't fit with the story of the movie, and
No.
she's acting at a different level than all the other actors
Yeah.
and it's not even, I'm not, by different level, I'm actually not saying that I think the other actors weren't good actors, but they were
No.
playing like, they were playing it straight and she was all in. So it was just, it made it feel very weird, like especially the second half. Like I just kept
just
sitting
felt
there
like we
going,
missed.
I don't like it. I don't
I
like
feel
this.
like there is a different edit of the movie where
Maybe.
Bonnie and Rochelle had something to do with the end of the movie, and they just
Yeah.
didn't in this edit. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, well, where did they go? Like,
Where
this
did
is
they
very
go?
much
Yeah.
about 4 people,
Yeah.
and at the end, it's about like 2
It's only
nemesis.
about the two
And I'm
of them,
like,
yeah.
but are what? Like,
Yeah.
except all 3 girls, like Nancy, Rochelle, and Bonnie, all like terrorize Sarah midpoint in this movie because they see she's pulling away
Yeah.
because she realizes their magic is too strong for their maturity.
Yeah.
You know, like it's too strong for what they know what to do with it. And she goes to seek help from a local witch, which I'm like, I wish we had a local like magic shop like that. And
I
I'm like,
do.
we totally don't. Well, yeah, you live near Salem, Miss Boston. I'm like, like, I know there are actual witches in Montreal,
Mhm.
but I'm like, there's no cute little Salem-esque witch shop in Montreal that I know of. If there
Well,
is one and somebody knows about it, please tell me. I'd
Fun
love to
fact,
go.
Fairuza actually bought a witchcraft shop,
Mhm.
like I think shortly
Yeah.
after this movie, and owned it until 2001. So like she was like all in. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently, so a lot of people when this movie came out, they're like, she was so intense in this because she actually was a witch.
Because
and,
she, yeah.
But what apparently the truth of it is, she was inspired by the text, by the movie, and everything she learned from it, that she got more into it
She got more into it, yeah.
through the filming of the movie, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, either way, like, yes. And I have to say, my poor little 90s brain, that like my poor little 80s baby grew up teenager in the 90s brain, is like, her name is Fairuza Balk, but I keep wanting to say Veruca Salt
100%.
because it's the name of a band in the
Mhm.
90s based on the beloved Charlie and the Chocolate Factory
Mhm.
kiddo that turns into a blueberry, Veruca
Yep.
Salt.
Yeah.
I'm like, the amount of times I'm like, you know, Salt, not Bulk. I'm like, oh my God, this poor woman. And I looked it up because I was like, why is her name? Because I'm like, obviously the movie and the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory came out before she was born.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why is her name Fairuza? Because it's so close to Faruka. You
Yeah.
know, like, and to be Fairuza Bulk, akin to Veruca Salt.
Yeah.
So in Persian, because her mother is Persian, her name Fairuza means turquoise, which of course with the color of her eyes,
Yeah, fits.
beautiful, beautiful blue eyes.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I understand why her parents named her that. That is beautiful. I'm like, but my poor brain is like ADHD. Like, what is happening? Like, great band, by the way. Also, Charlie and Chocolate Factory, great movie and book. The original.
The original.
The original.
There have been a lot of remakes.
The original.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to talk for a minute about Robin's wig.
Oh my God. Okay, so she came off. So
Empire
clearly,
Records.
Robin Tunney is very obviously wearing.
She is Deb from
don't
Empire
even wanna say-
Records.
I don't even want to say she's wearing a lace front wig because I feel like it's kind of like a very obvious hard front wig, and it wasn't glued down properly most of the movie.
No, so I'm, as we all know, if you at all listen or watch this podcast, I am the least observant human being known to man. I don't notice anything until after the movie, when I'm like done the movie and I've researched, and then I like remember things, right? So I sat down, I put on this movie, and literally in the first like 5 minutes of the movie, the first scene of the movie,
she walks on screen.
She walks on screen, and then there's like a crazy guy with snakes at the door, which like is a weird way to start the movie, but okay. Then she falls back in like surprise, and I literally paused it, and I was like, "What the hell is wrong with this woman's hair?" And then I was like, Oh, I was like, this came out right after Empire Records, and
So she
she
went from like set to
iconically
set.
shaved her head for Empire Records. She was Deb, if you remember that movie. And so
Ugh,
so she had still very, very short hair. And I'm a diehard Empire Records fan. So I
of
knew that she
course.
was Deb in Empire Records, but I didn't realize that this movie came out
Yeah.
right after. So I was like, and then
Immediately.
I couldn't not see it. Every single scene, the wig like looked a slightly different color. It was like in a different place. Like when they tried to tie it into a
I
ponytail, it was worse. Like
no.
it was just
It
distracting to
was
like
wild to me.
it was
It was
wild.
wild to me
Yeah.
that at the beginning of the movie, she's a redhead, and then it starts to go a little strawberry blonde.
Yeah.
And then the girls, as they're exercising their power of four, and they're kind of exercising the fact that as a closed circle, they have this magic, more magic accessible to them. She tries a glamour, she changes her green eyes to
It's
brown,
brown, yeah.
sorry, and they're like, oh, whatever. So she's like, well, how about this? And she changes her red hair to blonde. But then, and it like, which the blonde wig looked so much more like a wig than the fact that she was wearing a wig the whole time. And then, as the movie goes on, she's just a full-on blonde by the
Yeah.
end of the movie.
It's the
What?
weirdest
But I
thing.
mean, better than the fake blonde with the glamour. But like, how did she go from a redhead to a strawberry blonde to a blonde
Yeah.
in the span of like what, a week?
Yeah.
Like, uh,
It was a lot. I was like,
what?
I feel like they could have afforded a better wig, and like, or if they're gonna
Or
do a wig,
styling
like,
of said wig.
yeah, style it better. I like it was just bad. It was really, really bad.
Clearly needed to hire a drag queen
It was yeah,
to
it was,
style
yeah.
the wig.
Seriously.
Just, I need to say, okay, so two iconic things.
Mhm.
One, Nancy's mom was wearing a sunflower shirt. So it was
She
like a
sure was.
3/4 length, scalloped edged over the cuff of the arms and the hem of the shirt, scalloped edge sunflower shirt, and it had yellow sequins for the petals. I'm obsessed with this because I don't know if you remember, but in the 90s,
Oh, yeah.
sunflowers were the biggest trend.
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain this to people, but it was like sunflowers, smiley face, and aliens.
Yep.
Okay. That makes only sense to us.
Mhm.
But I'm like, can we please? I had that sunflower shirt. I would wear it again if I still had
You
it and the
should.
sequins did not crust
You
off
should
and fall
go and
apart.
buy it and wear it
Can we
proudly.
bring this sunflower trend back? I also had this gorgeous navy blue sunflower dress. I'm like, we
Ooh.
need to bring this back. Kids, you are bringing back the overalls. You have brought back my Doc Martens that I never let go of, so that works for me. Can we bring back the sunflowers? I'm like, I love it. Iconic, if you don't know, fashion-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, Nancy's mom was pretty
Also,
fantastic. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
her outfits were epic. Nancy's
Mhm.
mom's outfits were epic, okay? Another iconic moment in this movie, again, Nancy. They decide to go on a field trip to go out to the coast to do some spells and practice their magic.
Yep.
They get off the city bus that drops them off in the middle of like a countryside. And the bus driver says, be careful of the weirdos. And Nancy pulls down her little mini shades because the mini sunglasses were a 90s thing, not a like yesteryear, like just a recent thing. She pulls them down and she says, we are the weirdos. Iconic.
Iconic.
Katie didn't see the movie, but she knew that scene.
I knew that was
Like,
scene, yeah.
it was so entrenched in the culture of the 90s. And also this movie, without it, the success of this movie, because though it apparently critically did terribly, but it spawned things like Charmed, which was so hugely successful
Yeah.
that it actually prevented the sequel of this movie being made.
Yep.
And there was so much, like, if you think of, like, if you ever feel like during spooky season, oh, I want to watch a little witchy something, you're like, basically you have Bewitched, you have The Craft, and you have Charmed. That's basically
Practical
all you
Magic,
got.
which we talked about last week.
And Practical Magic, of course. So there's so few
And Hocus
things.
Pocus, which we don't have immediately on our list, but is a great rewatch.
Yes. Yeah. Though not the sequel. The sequel was not done by Kenny Ortega, and Disney, just to let you know, it showed that Kenny did not do the sequel. It was okay, but it did not have Kenny Ortega.
I have not yet watched that one. I don't know if I'll get there or not, but I want to talk for a minute about the fact that when Nancy's stepdad is killed by her spell, And then the Nancy and her mom find out that they have inherited the whopping sum of somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000, and they use that money, again, less than $200,000,
Penthouse
to
suite
buy
in
a
LA.
penthouse suite in LA, and and then
Convertible
Nancy
car.
has a convertible car, and they have like a
vintage
Wurlitzer
jukebox.
machine. Yeah, it's like absolutely crazy. Like
I swear to God, like their version of like 200K in this movie is like today's version of $4 billion.
exactly. Yeah, it's like the most amount of money ever. Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. And I do
to say, the stepdad in like her trailer park stepdad, I'm pretty sure, and please, if anybody can fact check this, and I know Doc isn't here at the moment, Doc is our fact checker. Is the stepdad the janitor in the Breakfast Club, which I have akin this movie to like an almost like a 90s witch version of the Breakfast Club. I'm like, but I feel like the stepdad is actually the janitor in the Breakfast Club.
Well, we do have, and shout out for everyone that joined a little bit after we said hello, but we have George and Kimberly and Dan and Paul hanging out. So if any of you want to look that up and let us know, we're happy to take live fact check. And if you're like, what are you talking about? We actually record this show live on YouTube, so we live stream it, and you're welcome to give feedback like these incredible people are doing, and let us know if you watch the movie, and give us all of your fun comments, and help us keep the show accurate, you know. so it's always fun. We do that every 9 p.m. on Thursdays. Sometimes we do Fridays or Wednesdays, mostly because I'm terrible at keeping to a schedule. It's never Nat's fault. It's almost entirely my fault. But we keep it pretty real. We're like more than halfway through the year, so we're doing well. We're doing well as far as it goes. But yeah, you might be right. I didn't notice that because, again, I'm not observant, but I did.
I'm like, I zero on sunflower sparkle shirt.
Yeah.
Check.
I did notice the sunflower.
This guy, I know him. He doesn't have a broom or a mop. Why do I think he should?
I did see a TikTok the other day that I don't know if I sent this one to you, but I did see a TikTok the other day where a woman was like, basically literally me, like watching a movie and just like literally Google searching every single like actor name and like every single aspect of the movie. It was like, and it was that same, like what you just said, like it was this random series of like thoughts, and I was like, oh, it's me watching a movie. I'm like watching a movie and I'm like, I'm not gonna look at my phone because I'm paying attention to the movie. And then I'm like, I wonder where, like, how old Neve Campbell is. And then I'm like, how old is Neve Campbell? And then I'm like, how many movies was Neve Campbell in? I'm like, how much money does Neve Campbell have? Where does Neve Campbell live? Oh, Skeet Ulrich. How many movies have Skeet Ulrich and Neve Campbell done together? When was this movie? Have they ever dated? And then I'm like, not at all paying attention. The movie's like going in the background, and I'm like, let me tell you about everything I've learned about this movie.
I have recently discovered that I'm pretty sure Kitty and I both are ADHD and neurospicy.
We're
or
neurospicy.
neurodivergent.
Yeah, we're neurospicy.
Whatever the children are talking about it on TikTok, and I'm afraid they're right. Kimberly has said
yes,
that
it is the same person.
His name is John Capellos.
Capellos, yeah.
Yes. I just IMDb'd
Nailed
him. I'm
it.
like, yes, I think that's the guy. And I'm like,
way
I
to
don't
go,
know if
Kimberly.
He's the janitor, but like,
you get the
thanks.
live fact checker of the evening award. It's it's this dinosaur. But he'll stay here because I can't get him to you. But that's the award that you have here on my desk. That is the award.
Every time somebody facts check, we will show the dinosaur.
We'll show the dinosaur in your honor. Yeah, I've definitely collected a number of very weird things here in this office space, so we can show all different kinds of things every time someone accurately fact checks.
We need a potato.
We do.
We need to figure out how to preserve a real potato.
It's true.
How can we petrify a potato without it shrinking like a raisin? If anybody knows.
I know, yeah, it's true. I did, fun fact, in one of my other favorite podcasts that I haven't yet fully convinced Natalie of, but I listened to Obituary, and they talk all about obituaries and death. And in one of the episodes, shout out to Obituary. But one of the recent episodes, they talked about plastification of bodies, and I was like, maybe we could plastify a potato.
I mean, theoretically, just from my studies of ancient literature and English literature. Oh, wait, we could theoretically stick a potato in a bog
We could. We could.
and
I think we
mummify
would
it in
need
a
it to.
bog.
I think we'd need to move it faster though, which is why I might look into
Yes.
plastification. Kimberly is like
Plastification of a
us. She spent a lot of time in libraries. People who spend time in
love
libraries, they do better in life. Just saying. Support your local libraries, please, everyone. Yeah, it is
So
absolutely amazing.
so back to the movie,
Hmm.
just briefly.
Just
Neve
briefly.
Campbell, I love that. So Neve Campbell is a Canadian. I'm going to do a very Canadian thing where we're uber patriotic when we're super proud of our like people
Our
that are out
people.
there and famous. There are so few of us that we're
Mhm.
very proud of the majority of them that are out and about, out and
Yep.
about
Out
as
and a
people.
boot. Yeah.
Americans think we say a boot, and the only time I've ever heard that in real life was in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
But regardless, or on Fargo,
On far.
the TV show
Yes.
slash movie,
Yes. Hmm.
when I travel and somebody's like, "Oh, can you do a Canadian accent?" I'm like, "Well, this is it." And they're like, "No, no, do the Canadian accent." I'm like, I just pull on my best Fargo
Hmm.
impression, which is not Canada, but close enough, guys.
Close enough. Yeah.
Um, so Neve Campbell's Canadian. We love her, and she was on this iconic teen show called Catwalk.
Hmm.
And
She
I
sure
don't know how
was.
you could find it, which probably YouTube, but if you can, it is so great. It is so great. It's
Watch at least clips.
teens, these teens, I think if I can remember, and I'm literally trying to remember back to early 90s, they they hang out in like an abandoned warehouse and have a band. And Neve Campbell, I think, is a singer slash tambourine player slash dancer for the band.
Yeah, she is.
Iconic. And she used to be a real ballerina, like a for real life ballerina. Amazing. And so that's how she got actually discovered for Party of Five. And because of Party of Five, she got discovered for this movie. She got cast for this movie, which
And then
at the time of this, I never saw Party of Five because I don't think it played on a Canadian like
I didn't see that either.
broadcasting
Yeah. I should
station. Like I
rewatch
didn't
that
know
one though.
anything. I tried. It was not good.
Yeah, but none of the 90s shows are short of
I'm
Dawson's
like,
Creek, which was a
I'm like
fun
the
rewatch.
concept of it was kind of horrifying, but also interesting. But then it just didn't carry. And I think maybe shows back in the day just had too much. There was too many episodes. They had too much time to do stuff and didn't really get anywhere. Anyways, but I was like, she was discovered because of the show Catwalk, and she should be. And she was an icon. And it's. I remember watching this movie and thinking, she's not the lead character.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
who are these other sub people? Like, she's main character, right? Like,
it's kind
and it
of
was weird to see because it's an American production, and as a Canadian, you're like, but she's the main character because she's super famous already here.
yeah.
It was very strange.
Yeah, cuz if you can believe
Yeah.
this came up pre-Scream, so she was not a big name at this point. Although I will say that like it is interesting that Robin Tunney got the lead role, but she actually auditioned for Bonnie's role and wanted, but like she was like, I don't think I am like lead actor material. And I, as much as I
Yeah.
love her, I kind of agree. Like I don't
Well, she
think,
played sort of sweet and like, but could have a bit of an edge, not fully innocent because she had a bit of a. I mean, I have to say, I find her character in this is very similar, though less outspoken than Deb from Empire Records.
yeah,
I'm like, I feel like it's almost a carbon copy of the character, just
yeah.
without her people. Whereas in Empire Records, Deb had her people, which pulled her out of her shell. In this, I find it's like Deb, but if she didn't have her people.
Yeah,
Does
I
that
see
make
that.
sense?
Maybe I
Yeah.
mean I like maybe my belief that she wasn't good in this is just entirely her wig. So it's possible that
It really is.
it's possible I could
wigs
go
were
either
so
way. But the wig was pretty bad, and I don't know. Well, we're almost coming to the end, but what I really want to make sure that we get in here because it's just weird and crazy. So you know how in the final like scenes of this movie they have like all of the snakes. So apparently, so these days they would just CGI all that and make it look like lots of snakes. They actually like had 10,000 real life snakes
Ew.
on set for that scene. And at the time, maybe still true, but at the time it was the like world record for the most amount of snakes, and all the bugs were also real. So the All of the snakes and bugs in this film were real. They did put the
Well,
bugs on a dummy and then like
gross.
made it look like it was on Nancy's
Fairuza
body.
Balk.
But yeah, but I was like, weird
Props to those girls for doing
choice.
this movie.
Yeah,
Like,
like why
wow.
though? And also like, can we talk for a second about the fact that like there's all of these snakes in this movie, yet they never really connect
Right.
what the significance of the
Okay.
snakes
I
is.
know that I'm pretty sure I figured it out. Okay, so um uh s- s- I want to say Sydney because
Catwalk
this
is on
isn't
Prime
Scream.
and Paul is buying it. Good
Ooh,
job, Paul.
yes,
Way to
good
go.
job, Paul. Catwalk is on Prime. Everybody go watch it.
Yes, go watch it. Go buy it. Support Neve Campbell. Neve Campbell for the win.
Okay, so Neve Campbell, not Sydney. Neve Campbell, who played Bonnie.
Bonnie. Also
um,
Sydney, but a different movie.
Also Sydney, different movie. Her power was fire, so her call to the four corners, to her element was fire.
Yeah.
And she was all burnt, so that makes sense from a
Yep.
previous accident.
Sure.
Slash, was it an accident? Did she do it to herself? Now I have so many questions that I
Yeah.
realize her element was fire.
Yeah.
So that whole scene threw me.
Yep.
Rochelle's element was water. She's on the swim team. She's an excellent diver and swimmer. That totally makes sense. Though as they're marching out to go do their spells, she had a Nemo fish, like a
Yeah.
clownfish. And I was
Yeah.
like, you couldn't just get a goldfish. Like,
I
you
know, that
spent
was
how much
weird.
on an exotic tropical fish
I
for
did
this
notice
moment?
that, and I was like, is it salt water in the bed? Do they do that? Like, I had a lot of follow-up
I'm like,
questions.
where did she get this
Where
tropical
did she
fish? And
get
how much money do these people have? Because
Yeah.
also all the medical and like plastics procedures that she was having, all these, not cosmetics, they were like intense medical procedures on her scars. Like, how much money do these people, like, how
Well, they
rich
were
is this
all
private
pretty
medical
well off. They
school?
were all in like these like
Except for
gigantic
Nancy, who was
houses.
randomly in a trailer park. So she
Yeah.
must have had a scholarship and been a genius. So I'm getting all of this from this one scene. Nancy's element was wind, and she's totally crazy, and wind can be super unpredictable and crazy, so I guess that fits. And Sarah was earth. So she's attracted, and she mentioned she kept having all these dreams, and sometimes when she would wake up from her dreams where she's covered in snakes and insects, they would actually be there. So I suppose that that's her calling to the element of earth. But we didn't get more out of it than my supposing that these are their elements and she's attracting all of these snakes. And in this final battle scene, which seems random for this level of a movie, between her and Nancy, neither wind nor earth was really called on.
Yeah. Neither
Except all the snakes and the bugs were there, but we didn't realize, we weren't told that Sarah was calling on these, which it seems that it was Sarah's magic that should have been calling all of these 10,000 snakes and insects to attack Nancy, but they just didn't full circle that. Like, make it the Breakfast Club a la 90s, or make it about witches. Like, just give us a solid.
It didn't, you're right, didn't follow up on that. And then the other thing it didn't follow up on was the creepy guy at the beginning that shows up with the snake. And then you see him later and he's hit by the car.
It felt like it meant more.
It like when you see that at the beginning of the movie, you're like, oh, this will come back. And he makes a bunch of comments related to the fact that he sees her surrounded by dead people. And I'm like, oh, okay, like a bunch of people are going to die, right? But then it's not that like not a lot of people die, because technically 2 people died, but those people.
She also believed her father and stepmother died, so technically 4 people.
I know, but then
he did also say that he saw her dead, surrounded by snakes.
Yeah,
which didn't happen.
And also, like, not that I wanted her father and stepmother to die, but I was like, the fact that they weren't actually dead and that was just a glamour kind of made his whole point, like, him weirdly irrelevant. Like, I was just like, okay, well then he was just creepy. Like, what was the point of him?
Like there was supposed to be more of a point to this movie, and I like, honestly, I feel it wasn't poorly written. All of the elements were there. I blame it on the editing, if I can. May I blame it on the edit? I would like the original script. I would like the original script. Like, before all of the ads, and apparently it got rewritten a couple of times. Once the more and more it got cast, the more and more they rewrote. I'm like,
Yeah.
give me, like, who wrote the story? I want that woman's original script.
We'll reenact it with potatoes. It'll be great.
We will. Imagine we do that for every movie. Just reenact it with potatoes.
Coming soon to a theater near you.
Potato remakes.
All right. Well, if you are watching in our live studio audience, shout out to you and thank you for hanging out with us. You can now let us know A, if you saw the movie, and B, if you have a rating for it.
Also just shout out to Kimberly. Thank you for the suggestion on how to preserve the potato.
Yeah.
We'll work on it.
We'll work on it. I know. I feel like we definitely need some potato props. We do have our new, I'm not wearing it tonight, but we do have our new potato t-shirts, which I get compliments on every time I wear it. I've only had it for like a few weeks now and I've worn it a lot. And every time I go out, people are like, is that a potato shirt? And I'm like, it sure is. And they're like, that is incredible. I'm like, I know, it really is. I can't say anything other than I know. It's absolutely incredible. Well, I had a hard time rating this one because, and I feel like I've felt this way about a couple of other movies.
Good, bad, and
it wasn't memorable. Good, but it was iconic.
I remember it.
Yeah.
I can remember very specific scenes, very specific outfits. I don't know why it sticks in your head.
Yeah.
So it has like a cultural significance.
It does. Yeah.
It may have been well written. It was better acted than it deserved. Final product.
Yep.
I don't know. 3 potatoes.
So again, we don't have halves. I probably would have gone 2.5 if we had halves, which maybe we'll get. We'll crop it in. In fact, I probably could crop it in. Let me. I'm gonna, while we're discussing, let me see if I can actually live crop it in because why not?
I think 3 potatoes just because it's kind of really stuck around.
Oh, that duplicates it. Let me see.
It's like the looks, the sentiment of the movie is stuck around. It generated shows like Charmed and the like which the CW. It fueled the CW.
It fueled the CW. It did. WB first, remember? It was WB and then it was CW.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's super funny. I know CW is a complete hoax because they're introducing this new show and it's like reviving Gilmore Girls. I'm like, we saw that show last year in Canada because it was filmed and made in Canada based on Canadian literature. I'm like, you just bought the rights to air it.
Yeah.
So CW's, I don't know, like they're not the same.
No.
But they used to be. Anyways. But so the show does have like long lasting context. The movie.
I think it's a 2.5, which I don't remember how to do.
Well acted. I would love to see a reboot of this movie. Like, where are they now? Like, and I know they did do the Craft Legacy. Again, I had so much hope for it. And again, same problem. It started off strong and then fell apart.
Yeah.
It was so weird. And again, I feel like I'm blaming it on the edit. It was like, what happened? Who was in the editing room? I feel like it was going somewhere and then it just stopped. And I'm like, and Fairuza Balk did have a guest appearance in it, and that was actually the best part of the movie. I don't recommend the sequel, but I would like to see the original cast do a well-written sequel where it kind of explores more of the actual, like, okay, so now they've been witches for 35 years. Like, let's see where this is at,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember how to cut the potato in half. But yeah, I'm somewhere in between. I'm between 2.5. I'm probably a solid 2.5, but I'll give it 3 for iconic sake.
I think 3.
I was like really
inspired.
It's true. I was excited.
It's amazing soundtrack, by the way. Also, I don't know if it's just a 90s one.
I didn't feel that way. I actually, I literally said to Doc over lunch today that I felt like
horrified face for the viewer.
I know. Sorry. Well, no, because
opening song.
Fine, I'll give you the opening song, but I feel like the rest of the movies that we've watched recently, Like
I've had better
every
success.
single song, I'm like, oh, I need to download that. Like it brought back like a moment or a memory. And this one, I feel like I didn't even other than the opening song, I feel like I didn't even hear the music in the background of this movie. Like
The
I was,
opening song, by the way, was done a Beatles remake by Our Lady Peace.
yeah.
So it was pretty iconic. It was like what song was it? Tomorrow. Oh,
Yeah.
of course I have mind
Yes, tomorrow something.
fart now.
I couldn't even tell you. So, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like compared to a lot of the other movies we've been doing recently, it didn't carry me the same way that other movies have. Like I didn't hear the soundtrack as much as I have in other movies.
Tomorrow Never Knows.
Mm.
Phenomenal Beatles song.
Mm-hmm.
Great original album cover, which is not their existing album cover for it because it got pulled from the market.
Mm-hmm.
And phenomenal cover by Our Lady Peace. And I believe the Charmed theme song, the TV show Charmed theme song, was also in this movie. Like
Yeah.
this movie really, like, quite legitimately was the only reason Charmed got made.
Yeah, and kind
So
of that's got to be a huge slap in the face to the creators of this movie who were like actively
yeah, they've
trying to
got
make a
nothing from it.
sequel, and Charmed was
Yeah.
like, just kidding, we'll do our own show, like, and steal all of your thunder. Paul says he hasn't seen it since it came out, but seemed like it was a 2. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I just felt
yeah,
like,
we're pretty. I mean, like, really, the sunflower sparkle shirt kind of swayed me more than it should have.
yeah.
I'm joking. No, I could see the potential in it, and I think that's why it can get like an almost 3. But it's a two tater movie, and the acting again. Like I love how Skeet Ulrich.
Sure.
If you read interviews about him being asked about this movie, he's like, I was so new on the scene. I barely had acted at all before this. I was so green. He's like, I was absolutely terrible in this movie, but I thought that he actually did it spot on
Yeah.
to like that guy I knew in high school. Like
Yeah.
that
He
he was
was
like the
believable.
Jason. Like he was like the hockey player Jason guy that I knew because Canada, so we don't do football as much. But like he was that hockey Jason.
He was somehow
like
both
the
Chris
central-
and Jason.
he was Chris and a Jason.
He
Like
was
he
a Chris
was
and a Jason.
today's Chad.
Oh, Chad.
Yeah, Chad. But we affectionately have a friend named Chad.
We do.
So it's
We have
not
a really good friend. Not you, Chad, but everyone else.
not,
Other
not our
Chads.
Chad,
Not our
but
Chad.
every
Other
other
Chads.
but I thought he ended up his greenness worked super well for this, but
Yeah. I love Skeet Ulrich, but I also like this movie reminded me how much I love Scream. And then also Skeet Ulrich has done like he was on Riverdale, and when he was on Riverdale I loved him, but
the only thing I liked about Riverdale,
was the
and I have
parents.
said this from episode 1, is like, can we just have a spin-off with the parents? Because I just want to know
Just
about
the
the parents in the
parents.
show.
Yeah.
Just the parents.
Yeah. Mostly just
Iconic.
Skeet Ulrich, but the rest of them are good too.
No, all of them. The Twin Peaks chick,
Mhm.
the like, no, and that Canadian guy who was the serial killer, who was like on that teen Canadian soap opera that I don't know the name of. Love him. Betty's dad.
Yeah.
He was.
If you
remember him?
haven't seen Riverdale, don't watch it.
Don't.
It's horribly bad. Like you will be embarrassed to admit that you watch it. We certainly are, but the parents are really good.
Okay, Halloween movies this month. Yes, Kimberly, we are going to do Halloween movies.
I mean, I will consider. We started with 2 witch
spooky do you
movies.
want to do?
Yeah, so
How spooky do you guys want us to go? Like, are we going to do like slasher, like kids dying in the woods, or
I
are we
want to
gonna
do
like Hocus Pocus?
So I will say I do really want to do a slasher. I will apologize to everyone. I am running a big event next week, so we are not going to be able to record next week. But maybe what we'll do, if Nat's up for it, is the following week we'll do 2 episodes. I'm up for doing like a Tuesday, Thursday, or some comp. Shut the front door. We'll do 2 because I can't.
Can we pretend that like Tuesday is Friday the 13th, and we do Friday the 13th?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
We will cover I think we'll cover the original movie because
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah.
And there's about like 12 movies.
We'll talk about
in
all of them
series,
because we
plus
just
a
love
TV show.
those so very much. We have seen those
But
more times than ever.
we'll focus on the original and mention the others because I do feel in the future that 2009 will have its own
Yes,
episode.
it is possible. We should do Halloween. So you know what we said in the last episode. We said in the last episode that we would just carry spooky season into November because why not?
Absolutely.
So yeah. So the answer, Kimberly, is yes. We're
Well, I
gonna
think we
ride
need to
that
do
right through to Christmas. So it's gonna
Friday
because
the
we're
13th.
Canadian. We're gonna
We need to
do
do-
spooky
Oh,
and then Christmas.
So we'll ride it through. So this weekend is actually Canadian Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And we will ride this through till American Thanksgiving. How
Yeah.
about that? Because
Yeah.
isn't that like end of November?
Yep. And then we'll
Mid-November?
switch immediately into Christmas. So it's all good. And then you can fight us because we 100% think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie. So keep that in your back pocket for
100%.
later. 112%. So we're,
Fight.
you can
It's
fight
kind of
us
the
later.
only Christmas movie that I love.
It's the only Christmas movie that we watch every single year, mostly on Christmas or New Year's Eve, one or the
Literally.
other, but it's 100%.
Okay,
but
so
yes.
next week we will definitely cover Friday or in
The
2 weeks we'll
following
cover
week,
Friday the
yes.
13th. And maybe another slasher like Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween, yeah.
Which
Let's
I do
Halloween.
have an affinity for the Rob Zombie Halloween movies.
I do love Halloween, yeah. I love those Halloween movies. I'm in.
Or a Hocus Pocus if we want to do like
I did just watch that with my kids
real
because I took
scary
them.
and real cute.
I did. I took them to. So I will say this before we wrap because all of you will maybe enjoy this. But I was my kids, if you don't know, are currently 8 and 11. They're literally days away from turning 9 and 12. And so I was like, well, they were both born in Salem, Mass. And I've never taken them back since having them. So I was like, I'm take them to Salem, Mass. And then I was like, we need to watch Hocus Pocus. And my husband Dane was like, we're not going to watch Hocus Pocus because they say the word virgin a ton in that. And I don't want to go. I don't want to explain to my kids who ask all the time what that means. And I was like, all right, well.
I feel like we've played like the telestrations and explained much more complicated.
Oh yeah, we've explained much more. But Dane was like, I don't think it's a good idea. And I was like, all right. And because I'm not observant, I was like, oh, they say it like once or twice. So like we'll watch it anyway. So we watched it anyway. They say it a lot, like a lot. But the kids didn't ask or notice at all. So we got all the way through the movie, which they absolutely loved. And so it was worth it. So it's
Kenny Ortega. Yeah, they mentioned virgin, but like let's be honest.
Yeah, it's really
like,
good.
Word you know before you're in grade 5, okay? Like
yeah, it's really good.
It's got to be covered.
It's absolutely worth it, and I'm laughing because Paul, our amazing moderator in my full-time job, is going to be here next week, and we are taking the team to Salem for a ghost walk. So we will be on location for all kinds of spooky craziness. So it's going to be great. Salem was crazy last week. So.
They make hardcore ghost walks in Salem.
Yeah.
Katie and I went to one. We're like, oh, is that real? Am I calling 911? And Katie's like, no, we're in Salem. It's fine. And I'm like, I'm dialing 911 at this point.
And because it's Salem, literally everything is haunted. Like they're like, that building there is haunted. That building there is haunted. This prison over here is haunted. This building, this sidewalk is haunted. This tree is haunted.
I live in Montreal. Let me tell you, everything is haunted too. Besides the fact that we're living on somebody else's land, that's also super haunted.
Also haunted.
Like I'm pretty sure the university that I work at in Montreal is like a burial ground, like an ancient burial ground, because we've had some really inexplicable shit happen in the building, and we're like, it shouldn't be here. We need to move this building. Yeah. So yeah, I love that stuff. So much fun.
Well, I love that you all hang out with us. I love that you are ready for spooky season. Let us know, send us in your favorite Halloween movies, because you never know, we might change our minds and jump in or mix a couple. And if you haven't yet, we did watch. I know what you did last summer, Scream and The Faculty, and we did like a triple review in one episode, so you could certainly go back and rewatch that. But yeah, we are here most Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, if you want to catch us live. Otherwise, you can always catch the replays whenever you want, or you can listen on any of your favorite platforms. If you leave a review, we'll be so happy and grateful. And we'll buy more potato t-shirts in our excitement
Yeah.
over your
I mean,
review.
one day
But
we'll have some potato merch, but we'll have to design our own. We can't
it's
just
true.
steal somebody's
It's
potato off of
true.
Temu, which
Uh,
I'm sure Temu stole it from somebody.
it's
So
100% stolen. But you're right. We do need
I'm
to come
like,
up with our own.
props to whoever that was stolen from. We love your little cartoon potato. He's adorable.
We do. Well, this has been a fun one, and I'm glad that we didn't love this one because most of the movies we
Yeah.
review we really like. So this is good. We're in a good we're in a good space. We had a good detailed conversation, and we'll be back again in 2 weeks. And hopefully, everyone in Canada has a very happy Thanksgiving, and everyone in the States can be like, "Why do Canadians have Thanksgiving?" And you should Google it and
The
look it up so that you
harvest.
learn.
It's a harvest, not a it's not
No
a
pilgrims, just harvesting. Yeah.
yeah. There's no cult like it's about just crops harvest.
Yeah, yeah. And November, everything is dead in Canada, so it has to be now.
Well, New England, to be fair, but
It has to be now. Oh my
oh,
goodness.
tells us we might know a designer
We
for
do know some
potato shirt,
designers. We do
potato
know some
merch.
designers.
Yes, mm,
Oh my
we
goodness.
might.
Well, from all
Well,
of us
thanks,
to all of
guys.
you, thank you for watching. We will see you next time. Bye, everyone.